These newspaper article readings are not for the faint-hearted or the squeamish. If you're at all sensitive, I might suggest these aren't for you. If in doubt, check the description below. It'll tell you which topics are covered in this particular episode. There's both human and animal suicides, and you heard that right. There's also horrific descriptions of injuries, as well as the deaths of youngsters. So don't do it to yourself if you're prone to nightmares, is all I'll say right now. Not all the articles are horrible. Some of them are uplifting, some of them show incredible bravery and heroism. There are near misses. So these were picked as showing life prior to health and safety, as well as for the crazy and curious details some contain, with other miscellaneous happenings that kind of struck me enough to post the articles to Twitter, despite not having too much relevance to Scotland necessarily. These are worldwide topics, and they didn't have any real connection to the projects that I was working on and researching at the time. I just happened to have come across them by the way, kind of thing. So we'll get into them, shall we? What we're going to do here is we're going to do a lucky dip of newspaper articles to really mix them up a wee bit, because while I'm doing the researches, I'm obviously coming up with the same kind of terms and things. So we'll mix them up even further. So to that end, I have all of the newspaper titles and dates of the articles. Right, are we ready to find out what we have for this episode of Random Newspaper Articles? What have we got? Okay, to kick off this episode, we have the Dundee Courier for the 26th of March, 1906. Let's find out what this was, eh? Okay, this is an interesting start. We have a madman at a funeral. Shoots 8 people and dies in burning house. This is from New York. A remarkable scene occurred at a funeral at Baltimore yesterday. Mr. Walter Potter, whose nephew was being buried, suddenly, in a fit of insanity, attacked the mourners. He shot 8 people, 2 of whom were mortally wounded. He then fled to his house and set it on fire. Gallant attempts were made to get him out of the burning house, but he attacked all those who came near him. When the flames were extinguished, he was found dead among the ruins. That's from the Dundee Courier for the 26th of March, 1906. I feel like there has to have been some kind of mental illness at play there. Really just for the fact that he's chosen to die in a burning house. I think when people start considering suicide, it tends to be as quick and painless for themselves as possible. And killing yourself in a burning house is neither of those things. So, yeah, I think there was something else going on there with him. See what we have next. We have another from Dundee, the Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 23rd of December, 1904. Let's see. Okay. This newspaper is giving us a train wreck in England. It's entitled Crash in the Dark, Appalling Railway Smash-Up, Expresses Collide, Whole Train Telescoped, 3 Men Killed. The Press Association's correspondent to Aylesbury telegraphs. A bad railway smash has occurred on the Great Central Railway at Aylesbury Station. 2 men were killed and a train has been wrecked. Telegraphing later, the Press Association's correspondent adds, The 2:40 a.m. mail train from Marylebone was smashed up at Aylesbury station this morning at 3:40. As the train was entering the station, where there is an awkward bend on the line, it left the metals. All the carriages were telescoped and smashed, except the guard's van. Fortunately, there were few or no passengers in the train. The driver was pitched right off the engine over the platform. He was badly scalded, all down one side, but no bones were broken, his escape being marvellous. The fireman was badly scalded and his arm broken, his injuries proving fatal. A dining car attendant was lying asleep when the accident happened, but he escaped with a bad shaking. A large breakdown gang is at work clearing the line, which is blocked. It continues, telegraphing at 9 o'clock. The same correspondent says that the official account of the accident states that the train which ran off the rails was the Great Central newspaper train from Marylebone. The train became derailed by the station platform. Just at that time, a Great Central train from Manchester was entering the station, but the signalman, noticing that the newspaper train had left the metals, signalled in time to almost stop the up train, the engine of which, however, ran into the wreckage. The fireman of the down train was killed, and the driver, named Joseph Barnshaw of Manchester, is in hospital badly injured, suffering principally from scalds. 2 employees of the company who were in the down train were unfortunately killed. Their names are Daniel Summers, a driver, and Joseph Stanton, a fireman, both of London. A dining saloon attendant, Thomas Matthews, happily escaped with slight injuries. It is officially stated that no passengers were travelling on either train. All the carriages of the newspaper train were either telescoped or smashed to pieces, and the engine of the train lies across the platform. The permanent way was torn up and gravel was thrown many yards to the far end of the station, breaking the windows of the waiting room and also the slates on the roof. After the train from Marylebone was off the line, the 10:20 from Manchester ran into the wreckage, but as the train had been slackened by signal, very little damage was done. The train from London was an express parcels, carrying a tremendous weight of parcels, and there were no passengers except a driver and fireman who were returning to Manchester. They are now in the wreckage of the train. The guard, French, of the London train had a marvellous escape, being hurled into some bushes. And that's from the Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 23rd of December 1904. And like they kept repeating, it's just pure luck that there were no passengers involved in that. That only 3 men died in such a horrific accident that destroyed so much rolling stock. That's really as good an outcome as you could have expected from that accident, really. Alright, the next one. Take a few out. We have the Aberdeen Press and Journal for the 22nd of September 1905. Alright, we have an alarming accident on Loch-Nagar. Terrible fall of 2 ladies. On Wednesday afternoon, 2 ladies, the Mrs. Perrins from Braemar, who had ascended Loch-Nagar, ventured too near the precipitous rocks on the north-east side of the mountain and fell, the one a distance of about 200 feet, and the other of about 100 feet. A gentleman named Fowler from the Fife Arms Hotel, Braemar, happened to be on the hill and noticed the 2 disappear. He was unable himself to render any assistance, but hastened to one of the Balmoral keepers' lodges and gave the alarm. A rescue party under Mr. Michie, factor, and including Doctors Grant and Hendry, at once started. After searching for about 3 hours, both ladies were found about 1 a.m. One was immediately removed to the sanatorium, Balmoral, where she is being carefully attended to. Though badly cut and bruised, no bones were broken. The other, owing to her situation, could not be rescued until daylight, when Mr. Michie descended by means of a rope and rescued her, none the worse for her 15 hours' exposure. And that's from the Aberdeen Press and Journal for the 22nd of September 1905. Scotland can get quite cold in September, and that they've fallen in the afternoon when it was maybe a bit warmer, but then One has had to wait until 1 a.m. when it's going to have been freezing, and the other until daylight the next day. That's a really long time to wait for help. And it says that she was none the worse for her 15 hours exposure. But the relief at being found and getting somewhere warm, oh my word. So that's very lucky for them. I mean, it's quite a distance to fall, so it's very lucky. It's just a shame they were left for so long before rescue. We'll have one more for this episode. We have The Scotsman for the 2nd of July, 1831. So this is an older one. Okay, this is just a really daft story from Glasgow. A ludicrous circumstance that occurred yesterday in town, which, however, at first wore a rather serious aspect. A hawker of Irish linen was going along Gallowgate with a quantity for sale in his possession. Observing a decent-looking woman at a close mouth with a child in her arms, he accosted her with the familiarity natural to his calling and asked her to buy. She said she had no money and would not purchase. "Oh, never mind the brads," said the pedlar. "I'll give you a piece for that fine child of yours." "It's a bargain," rejoined the mother, laughing. "You'll take a child and I'll take a linen." And with this remark she put the child into the man's arms and took in exchange a few yards of the Irish goods. The pedlar laughed at the joke, walked off with his prize, and in less than a minute disappeared. The mother's fears were instantly excited, and off she set after the merchant, alarmed the police, and scoured the city in search of him and her child. The pedlar, however, scarcely moved 100 yards from the place where the mock bargain had been made, and soon returned, but he found the mother gone, he knew not where. He became alarmed in turn, and began to be afraid that really the bargain might be no joke after all. He, however, lingered near the spot, and after about 2 hours' absence, the mother at last returned, almost frantic from her chase, and along with her the police officers, who, on finding the pedlar, thought it their duty to take him to the office, where the child was returned to the mother. Today, both the parties appeared at the bar, where the case excited a good deal of laughter, and both were dismissed with a caution not to try any such dangerous jokes in future. And that's from The Scotsman for the 2nd of July, 1831. I don't really know what to say about that, other than it's good it was all cleared up and the woman got her kid back, but that's really stupid for a story. The idea that that went to court, like, for them to be told off, I don't know. I don't think it would get that far these days. Anyway, yeah, that's us for this episode, I guess. So that's a nice way to end, I think, in something that's not death and destruction. So we may see you next time. Take care.